Hey boys, welcome back to the channel where we are going to be going into the round 3 preview and tips. And yeah, last week we got 6 out of 8, I think, for the tipping. Honestly, it was, you know, for round 2 of the season, it was a pretty easy week compared to round 1. But having a quick glance, there's some toughies. There's some toughies in this week for sure. So let's start out with the Dragons v the Sharks. This is one that is already a little tricky. So McCulloch is gone with a serious injury, and George Burgess is also gone for just off-field issues. You know, is it that hard to just not be a piece of shit? I don't know. Apparently it is for some players. I mean, you know, it's not NRL players. It's people in all walks of life. But obviously the NRL players get the headlines. But yeah, he goes out. Alvaro, Ford, and Moga. So okay, who comes onto the? Yeah, so Ford comes onto the bench with Tarek Sims playing at lock. Did he play there last week? Am I a fool? Did he play? I didn't think he played last week, or maybe he did. But regardless, the Dragons, I actually think the Dragons have been pretty impressive. Obviously, both these teams, 1 win, 1 loss. But you know, you look last week, Dragons, you know, I'm not going to say they should have won against the Panthers, because you just never know what would happen, but they you know, they got the rough end of the stick there, and I personally think they, you know, it was a game that definitely could have won. Let's put it like that. I think they've been pretty impressive to start the year. I like their back five, their halves. Ben Hunt, very underrated player still. You know, he still cops a lot of flack. He makes the odd error, but he's a competitor. He's a competitor, and I think he's excellent. Teletau Amone, I think he's starting to, you know, find his feet. The forward pack is strong, and actually, yeah, Mose Mbai. I forgot that McCulloch is gone, so Mbai comes in to dummy half. Honestly, Mbai is going to be like one of the signings of the year. You know, he's going to not really garner too much, and I know, again, a lot of people don't like Mbai, and you know, I can sort of see just the money he was on at certain clubs, maybe a little overpriced at times, but like he's a very good player. He you know, I think slot him in as a starting half at some, you know, quite a few clubs, and he would do an excellent job. He can play dummy half. He's a very good utility. So yeah, he's a great signing for the Dragons. He comes straight into the dummy half role, and he's probably going to play 80 minutes. Looking at their team, he probably is for 80 minutes. I think he can handle that. And then the rest of the forward pack is strong as well. It's actually strange that Tarek Sims is playing lock and Bird is playing in the back row still. They obviously really want Bird to play in the back row. Because yeah, and honestly I think it is probably a good move. I think Tarek, you know, when you get a bit older, probably going into the middle is the way to go. You know, on the edge you need to obviously, you know, have that mobility still. You know, you're marking up against some of the more athletic and you know, guys with agility, but so I think it's a good idea. And then the Sharkies, so you know, they're losing Mulatalo, big loss, and then Teague Wilton, also a pretty big loss. I think he got a couple of weeks suspension. The big man Talakai comes in, which, I mean, I love Talakai. He is an absolute monster. Teague has started the year great, but I love Talakai, so I like that quite a bit. Looking at the bench, still got the big boys. Braden Trindle comes into the onto the bench, which I actually like quite a bit, because I'm going to talk about the halves here, because obviously I don't want to be too critical of Hines, because I know he's done some great things already, but it's more that, personally, I just think, and I talked about this in the round 2 review, for me, he's not a halfback. I think he's a 5'8", you know, very similar to a Munster, you know, Dylan Brown to an extent. he's just a guy that plays off the cusp, and you know, I don't know. I just don't really like the pairing of Moylan and Hines. And personally, I think they'd be better off with Hines 5'8" and Braden Trindle at 7. You know, Trindle can steer the ship. I think he can do that pretty well. And Hines just plays what's in front of him, because that's where he's at his most dangerous, when he's not really a structured player, and you sort of, I don't know, I just feel like you need your halfback to be like that, and you don't want to shoo him into, you know, being responsible for steering the team around. I think that would make their just overall attack a lot better, because he's done some great things, but I just don't particularly like the pairing, and I think he would work better as that second receiver. But yeah, I don't know, and I could be totally wrong about that. Hines could turn into fantastic halfback, but that's just my opinion on the matter there. Overall, I think it's going to be a tough game. I personally, I'm going to tip the Dragons in this one. I was going to say Sharks, but I'm going to tip the Dragons. I just think they've been more impressive. I think they've got a more balanced team overall, and I think they'll get the job done. I think the Sharks have been, they've been okay, but not stellar. They haven't. I mean, they did beat the Eels last week, but I don't think the Eels were that good. And the Sharks, I mean, they won it at the dying stages. They could have been 0-2 to start the year. But yeah, it's going to be a tough game regardless. Alright, and then we move on to the Tigers Warriors. So this was one of the games that I was looking at, and I don't know. I honestly don't know. So Ash Taylor is gone. Nikorima comes in. What happened to Taylor? Did he get injured or suspended? Because I thought from memory Taylor was not too bad. Was he last week? Honestly, I don't know. There's been a lot of footy. I can't even remember. I thought he was okay though, unless he did get suspended or maybe Did he go down with injury? Maybe he did. We're not going to dwell on it too much. Big loss here for the Tigers. Kelma Tuolangi with that head knock last game. Big loss for them, because he was looking one of their best players. So yeah, massive loss. The Tigers have been just absolutely trash. I know some people are still claiming that, you know, they look pretty good against the Storm, but that's why I was saying, like, it's hard to sort of judge the Tigers on that performance, because, like, let's be honest, the Tigers were full strength and they were versing the Storm without Munster, Grant, Bromwich to start, and then Brandon Smith, Christian Welsh, and George Jennings went down injured. So I didn't, you know, I was a bit like, I mean, yeah, they were okay. They were okay against the Storm, who was still a good team, but, you know, I don't know. It was a bit like, really? You know, there was maybe a game that it's the best time to verse the Storm when they're missing that many players, but they didn't get the job done, and then they got absolutely smoked last round. I mean, they've got some attack, they got some good young kids, but, I mean, the Luke Brooks, Jackson Hastings combo is not working. I mean, obviously there's issues there. It's all sort of coming out now that Luke Brooks isn't happy. Maguire's in a lot of trouble. Like, he's not going to last too long. But I mean, I still like that game last week where not one of their forwards ran for even close to 100 meters. When you've got guys like Stefano Utsukamano, Luciano Leilua, Alex Twal played pretty big minutes. Like, how on earth? Like, the most was like 60 odd meters. Well, actually, the most was Hastings with like 100 odd, but he did get a couple of like longer runs. But yeah, it was a terrible performance. But this is why this game is so hard, because I feel like the Tigers, they were so bad. You know they're going to come out this week. You know they're going to come out this week and fire up. There is no chance that they play as badly. So I can see the upside. I can see the upset. And I mean, the Warriors on the flip side haven't been that much better. They've been pretty poor themselves. They've lost 2 games. Reece Walsh looked really good coming back into the team. You know, some good outside backs. Obviously, the new halves pairing again. 3rd week in a row where there's a new halves pairing. Nikorima and Harris Tavita. I mean, they've played a lot together, so it's not, you know, anything too major. But yeah, I don't know. The game against the Titans was just, I don't know. The Titans was so bad, but they still somehow won. Well, they weren't. I don't know. Again, it was a weird game to sort of look at. Like, either team could have won that, and the Warriors just didn't have that killer punch. They still have an incredibly strong forward pack. I don't even know. I'll tip the Warriors. I mean, I wanted to tip the Tigers just because I feel like they're going to come out and fire up. But nah, we're going to go with the Warriors. I just feel like they just got a little bit too much spark. I think they'll have a few too many points for the Tigers. So we'll tip the Warriors. They'll break their streak. Then we have the Rabbits Roosters. So big game. Latrell, Manu. I mean, pretty much Latrell against the whole Roosters. I'm keen to watch this game. I'm expecting some fireworks. Because you just know, like, I'm sure people will try to get in Latrell's ear to like calm him down, but you just know he's not that type of player. He can't stop himself. He cannot stop himself from doing something, you know. And I'm not talking about anything like illegal or anything like that, but you know he's going to try and you know, just absolutely smash someone, or just he's going to do something. And you know, you got guys like Cody Walker as well to sort of stir the pot. So I'm expecting a fiery game. I mean, straight up, I'm tipping the Roosters. I just feel like, you know, they weren't, obviously round 1 they were pretty terrible. Round 2 I think they were obviously a lot better. I don't think they were at their best still, so I still think there's a lot to come. You know, the young pairing still is finding its feet. Walker looked pretty good. Keary is getting back into the swing of things. Connor Watson looked pretty good. You know, getting used to that dummy half roll again. The forward pack is, you know, it's strong. It's definitely looked a lot stronger. Angus Crichton is on the bench, which is very strange. I don't know why he's dropped Crichton. Now, Nat Butcher obviously played incredible last week, but I don't know. It's a weird one for me. I don't really understand. Maybe they're going to use Crichton more through the middle. Maybe I don't know. Bit of a weird one, but yeah, I don't know. The Roosters forward pack, I think it's the one area that they're starting to taper off. You know, they do have some young kids coming through, but I haven't been that impressed with some of their young guys coming through, and obviously a lot of their old boys are starting to taper off. So I think it's one area that a lot of teams can start trying to get on top of them is through the middle. But you know, it's still a strong forward pack, don't get me wrong. I mean, Radley, Tupanua, Crichton, that's a pretty good back row. And then Lindsay Collins, Takiaho, you know, on paper, it's pretty darn good. It's pretty darn good. And then on the flip side, the Rabbits have a strong forward pack, you know, in their own right. But I just can't see them turning it around. You know, Lachlan Ilias, he's under pressure. Cody Walker is under more pressure. Their back 5, just defensively, they're struggling. They're just struggling out wide to really contain teams, and I think the Roosters could actually notch up a fairly big score in this one. And then we move on to the Panthers v the Knights. So this is also a pretty tough game. Big loss. Brian Toto is out. Even though the first couple of weeks he hadn't really been doing his Brian Toto best in the first 2 weeks, and they'll still getting the job done. Taylor May comes in, so I haven't really seen him, but he from all reports he's similar to a Toto type player, very, you know, stocky, shortish. So probably don't lose too much with that. I mean, you lose a lot without Toto for sure, but not a terrible replacement. Lachlan Fitzgibbon goes out, but, some big inclusions. Kalen Ponga comes in. It's great to see Edric Lee back from what it seems like years since he's played, but man, Edric Lee, he used to be such a rocks and diamonds player. And then at the Knights, he really turned it around and he became honestly one of the best wingers in the comp. And then just suffered injury after injury. He hasn't played in, so long. But it's great to see him back on the extended bench. The rest of the team, both the Saifidi brothers are fit because, who comes back in? Daniel Saifidi comes back in. And, other than that, I mean, it's a good team. It's a good team. The Knights are... They're impressing. They're impressing, and I keep saying it, but the Clifford-Clune combination has looked great. They've been the form halves of the competition. But, they're taking on the heavyweights now. It's still without Nathan Cleary, so I'm like, surely they lose one without Cleary. They can, but I'm also like the Knights are sort of due for a game where they, I think, hit a bit of a wall as well. So I'm going to go with the favourite again here. I'm going to go with the Panthers. Very boring tip, but I just feel like it's a game that the Knights are going to sort of not play poorly, but I think it's a game that they're going to, not be given as much freedom, and they'll probably target the halves a little bit more with the Panthers. They're sort of masters at just putting pressure on the halves. They got some forwards that really sort of make life difficult. So yeah, other than that, the Panthers I think will get the win there. Moving on, Storm v Eels. So the Storm, does it have it here? No, it doesn't have. It's not updated, but yeah, Harry Grant is gone. He's gone with COVID, and Tyron Wishart was a close contact with, I think, Harry Grant, so he's gone as well. So I don't know. I don't know who's going to play dummy half. Brandon Smith is on the extended bench, but I don't think he's going to come back. Good Lord, that would be pretty crazy. Nikorima might come onto the bench, and Chris Lewis, I would say, would probably start at dummy half, and then Nikorima might spell him. That's maybe what would happen. The poor old Storm, they're still doing well. They're still doing very well. They're in fourth spot, but they have not had a full-strength team at all this year thus far. But, with the likes of Munster, Hughes, and Pappenhausen, they just need a dummy half just to give them the ball early, make their tackles, and then, the rest of the boys can just work around it. The Eels, let's be honest, the Eels could be 0-2. I guess they could be 2-2 as well, or 2-0 as well. They could have won last week, but they also could have lost round 1 against the Titans pretty easily. So I don't know. The Eels' form has been strange. I feel like their defense has been pretty weak, which, I guess they've always been a more attacking team, but I feel like in the past their defense has sort of been one of the better in the comps, but it hasn't started that well. Nathan Brown comes into the starting lineup, which I think is pretty good for them. They've pretty much got a full strength lineup. Jake Arthur finally pisses off. I just don't understand why he has been on the bench at all. He offers nothing. He offers absolutely nothing. I've seen a few comments people were like, oh, he's a utility. But it's like, surely the Eels, Parramatta, have a young kid or someone who can play a 14 role and be cover for an outside back or in the halves. Jake Arthur is not that. So I think it's a far stronger team now. But again, I'm going to go with the favourites. Early in the season, I'm going to go with the favourites here in the Storm. Also, at Amy Park, I think, again, it's a weaker Storm team, but I just can't see them losing that one. Raiders Titans. So another very, very tough matchup. Very, very tough. Big inclusion. Brad Snyder comes in. You know, don't get me wrong. What's his name? Bloody Frawley. Yeah, he's a very decent cover option, but he's not a guy you want to be starting with too many games. And Schneider, he's shown in round one, he looks quite good. And it looked like Jack Whiten plays really well with him, because Schneider just sort of, he just steered them around really well. And then Whiten just does what he does best. Tackles hard, runs hard, and had a good game. So Jordan Rapiner also comes back in for James Schiller, who was out. So it's a strong back line. Kluckster, Kotrick, Tomoko, Velame, and Rapiner. I mean, it's a pretty damaging and strong back five. On the flip side, the Titans, Campbell, Sammy, Kelly, Herbert, and Marju. That's strong as well. And this should be an exciting game as well. I'm going to go with the Titans straight up. I'll go with my boys, the Titans. I just feel like, it's going to be another high-scoring game. I just feel like that's the biggest problem with the Titans, man. Like, they're a team that they're going to trouble, like, even the best teams in the comp, I think, at times. But they're also never going to be, like, home and hosed. You know, they could score 20-odd points and still lose games easily. So, following the Titans would be an absolute nightmare, dude. Like, they're sort of I'm a Queenslander, so obviously I go for them. But, they just never blow teams off the park and then defend a lead. So, and the Raiders, they have some attack in them. So, it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think the Titans just have a few more points in them, hopefully. And Brimson, he looked good in his first game back, and I think another game under his belt, that combo with Sexton should be quite nice. And then we have the big Queensland derby, Broncos v Cowboys. Look at the Broncos third, Cowboys fifth. Get that up, everybody. Everyone's saying the Cowboys are going to come last. Broncos are going to come 15th. Like, I'm not saying this is going to be till the end of the year, obviously, but it's good to see it for now. The Cowboys. What do you even say about the Cowboys? They were terrible in round one. They were incredible in round two. The Broncos have been. The Broncos have been really scrappy, really sloppy. You know, they've had their chances, they've squandered opportunities, they've looked clunky, but man, I've been impressed with just their defensive efforts, and just, they've really shown a better side to them this year so far. But you know the form goes straight out the window when these two teams come up against each other. It's going to be a good game. It doesn't matter how bad either of these teams are going. It's gonna be a solid game of footy. I'm gonna go with my boys, the Broncos. I just think overall they've just got a stronger team. But I like the Cowboys. Honestly, I don't mind the Cowboys. The biggest issue is Chad Townsend and Dearden still. Like, it's just. Dearden was excellent last week. Townsend, I thought he's pretty rubbish. I still think Drinkwater has to come into the team, but they're not going to drop Townsend after spending like $700K on him. I just don't get the recruiting of the Cowboys at times. Peter Hiku, honestly, has been a great recruit. He's looked excellent. Fido starting to find his feet at fullback. Their forward pack, Jeremiah Nenai, looks excellent. Tom Gilbert's looking good. Reece Robson, Tamalolo found a bit of form last week, so it's gonna be a good Queensland derby. But I'm going with my Broncos. I just think, come on, start the year 3-0. It'd be such a nice little boost. Then they can have a bit of a bad run and still be decent. So. Come on, Bronx. You can do it. And then we have the Seagulls v Bulldogs. Oh, man. The Bulldogs, I mean, to the Bulldogs' credit, they have shown some resilience in their defense, their attack. Without Matt Burton looking very dangerous every time he runs the footy, or without his kicking game, I feel like they wouldn't score any points at all. But, they do have Burton there, so they do have potential for points, but I just don't see them. It's just going to be hard for them to win many games. Obviously, they won round one by scoring one try, and the Cowboys scored one. It was an absolute stinker. They were lost to the Broncos, and they had so many chances on the Broncos try line and could not crack them. Obviously, they scored 2 tries, but yeah, they had a lot of chances, and I just can't see them. Yeah, I just can't see them holding a team like Seagulls to 1 or 2 tries. I just feel like Tommy's in for a big game. I feel like, it's just, this is the type of game that Trbojevic will carve up. Even though the Bulldogs have been pretty solid, he does absolutely monster on sort of weaker opposition. So I think Tom's going to be in for a huge game. Cherry Evans then on the back of that's going to have a stellar game, and then everyone around it just sort of gets a boost, so to speak. So yeah, I'm tipping the Seagulls in a big win. I feel like the Dogs have been good, but this game they might come crashing back down to earth. I could be totally wrong. I mean, the Seagulls have been terrible to start the year, so who knows? The old Dogs of War might come back. And I mean, I don't like the Bulldogs, but honestly, they've been pretty. I mean, round 1 was awful, but round 2 against the Broncos, it was a fun game to watch. Like they were aggressive. It was fun. So I'm hoping they continue that aggressive nature throughout the year. Pengai Jr., he's a big part of it. I love Pengai Jr. I'm still sad he left the Broncos, but he does some questionable things at times, but you gotta love him. Like he revs the boys up. He's always leading from the front. Whatever you want to say about him, he's always one of the guys to try and turn the momentum in their favor and try to get something happening. So yeah, he's a good player. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the Seagulls. So yeah, I'm pretty much going with all the favourites in this week. But yeah, let me know in the comments section who you guys are going for. Any upsets? Any games you're excited about? But other than that, make sure to like and comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one.